Dr. Martin Harris and his wife, Liz, travel by plane to Berlin for a conference. Upon landing, they take a taxi, but due to their hurry, Martin accidentally forgets his briefcase on a luggage trolley. Their schedule includes visiting an exhibition on Saturday after Martin has lunch with Professor Bressler. However, when they reach the hotel, Martin discovers that his briefcase is no longer with them. Liz inquires about their room and is informed that it might not be ready. She becomes frustrated and observes Martin re-entering the taxi. Martin faces the additional problem of having no phone signal and being stuck in traffic. He requests the taxi driver to take an alternative route, but during the journey, they experience an accident, causing the car to veer off a bridge and leaving Martin unconscious. The driver forcefully breaks through a window to extricate him from the car. Paramedics arrive promptly and successfully rescue him, while the driver departs from the accident scene. Martin regains consciousness in a hospital bed and is informed that he has been in a coma for 4 days. He becomes puzzled about his wife's absence, but the doctor informs him that he had no identification on him. Later, a nurse informs him that nobody has come in search of him. His belongings are returned to him, and he recollects receiving an engraved watch from his wife as a honeymoon gift. He opens a book with a dedication from his father and discovers some numbers inscribed inside the cover. On the television, a news report about the conference catches his attention, triggering his memory of his prior commitment to attend it. Despite the doctor's reluctance to discharge him, Martin is provided with the doctor's contact information in case any complications arise. Martin visits the hotel and reports that he has misplaced his room key. He spots his wife and attempts to approach her, but the hotel security blocks his way, citing his lack of identification. They accompany him to Liz, but she denies recognizing him and introduces another man who identifies himself as Dr. Martin Harris. Martin is then escorted out of the room and brought to review the security camera footage of their check-in. It is verified that Liz had checked in during the morning, while the other Martin had checked in at 3 p.m. The staff is unable to definitively confirm his identity. Frustrated, he insists on contacting his embassy, but since it is Thanksgiving and the embassy is closed, he requests to return to the hospital and meet with the doctor. They arrange for a taxi, but he soon disembarks and observes Liz dining from outside the window. Later, he attempts to check into a budget hotel, but they refuse him accommodation due to the absence of his passport. He steps outside to place a call to his friend Rodney, sharing his predicament. After concluding the call, he becomes aware of a car tailing him and takes refuge in the subway. The car continues to follow, prompting him to board a train in an attempt to evade them. On the train, he begins jotting down the appointments he can recollect. Upon disembarking from the train, he rips a page out of the phone book. All of a sudden, he spots a taxi similar to the one involved in the accident and decides to head to the office. Inquiring about the driver, he discovers she is named Gina, but she firmly requests that he leave her alone. Martin proceeds to his scheduled appointment with Professor Bressler, only to find the other Martin already present. He attempts to persuade the professor of his authenticity, but both Martins articulate the same information. The other Martin presents his identification, including a picture of him with Liz, causing Martin to lose consciousness. Back at the hospital, the nurse provides Martin with a phone number for her friend, who happens to be an investigator. The doctor expresses regret for discharging him prematurely. In response, Martin questions how the doctor possesses so much knowledge about Martin Harris when he is not truly him. Subsequently, Martin is sedated and sent for an MRI scan. After the MRI, the man from the subway enters the room and attempts to seize him. The nurse intervenes to stop him, but tragically, she is killed in the process. The man exits the room, affording Martin an opportunity to free himself. He manages to escape the hospital in an ambulance. Once outside, he attempts to contact Liz, but the call is answered by the other Martin. Instead, he decides to meet with Jurgen, the investigator recommended by the nurse. He requests the man's assistance in establishing his true identity as the genuine Martin Harris. Martin provides Jurgen with his father's book, revealing the numbers inscribed within. He also discloses that his wife wrote those numbers. Furthermore, he displays the weekly schedule he reconstructed from memory. Martin's suspicions revolve around a carefully orchestrated plan spanning months, yet he remains convinced that there must be some crucial detail they've overlooked. Jurgen offers his commitment to help and Martin hands over all the money he currently possesses as payment for his services. He advises Jurgen to re-examine the situation, particularly by revisiting the details involving the taxi driver. Martin then goes to meet Gina, confronting her about her escape from the accident due to her undocumented status as a worker. In an attempt to gain her cooperation, he offers her his watch and requests that she engage in a conversation with Jurgen. Simultaneously, Jurgen contacts a man named Hans at the airport and requests a favor from him. Martin briefs Gina on the ongoing situation, and she provides him with a place to stay. Meanwhile, Hans begins searching for information regarding the conference attendees and stumbles upon a video related to an assassination attempt on an Arab prince named Shada. Martin peruses some of Gina's drawings, prompting her anger at his unauthorized inspection. She confides in him about her aspirations to save enough money to acquire the necessary documentation, enabling her to escape her current situation. A knock at the door interrupts their conversation, with a man delivering taxi keys to Gina. Martin decides to take a shower, and then there is another abrupt knock at the door. Startled, two armed men forcefully enter the room and incapacitate Gina. In response, Martin seizes an opportunity to evade them by scaling onto the rooftop. One of the men follows Martin as he goes down to the street. The other man, the one from the subway, stays with Gina. Martin comes back and gets into a fight with the pursuing man. During the fight, Gina stabs the man in the neck with a syringe. They drive away in a taxi but almost crash into a car driven by the other bad guy. He chases them through the streets, trying to force them in front of an oncoming tram. Eventually, both cars crash, and they seek safety inside a club. Gina confides in Martin, sharing that people similar to them had killed her family. She walks away, leaving Martin to open his book and examine the numbers. As he studies them, he comes to understand that they form a code indicating specific words on certain pages of the book. He begins deciphering the code just as Gina returns. Martin apologizes for bringing trouble into her life and promises to resolve the situation. He contacts Jurgen and informs him that he has successfully cracked the code. The code reveals the scientific name of two ordinary flowering plants, but its significance eludes them. Jurgen inquires about the relationship between Prince Shada and Professor Bressler, and it becomes apparent that they are collaborating on ambitious initiatives aimed at addressing global hunger. This raises Jurgen's suspicion that an individual might be impersonating Martin Harris to approach the prince with the intention of assassinating him. In response to these revelations, Martin resolves to locate Liz, following his original schedule. However, Gina expresses concerns, believing that this might not be a wise course of action. He proceeds to the exhibition as per his initial plan, closely following Liz. However, he becomes aware that the other antagonist is also tailing her. Gina attempts to send him a message to inform him that the other Martin is en route. Martin eventually manages to have some private time with Liz, but she questions why he's been following her. In a hushed tone, she reveals that they are in grave danger and explains that if they can't escape, both their lives are at risk. Liz insists that he must locate his missing briefcase, then affectionately kisses him, expressing her love. As he departs, Gina joins him, and they make their way to the airport together. Meanwhile, Jurgen receives a letter from Hans that includes airport security photos of Martin and Liz together. Shortly afterward, he gets a phone call from Martin's friend Rodney, who offers to confirm Martin's identity and agrees to come over immediately. When Rodney arrives, Jurgen discovers that Rodney is a former mercenary with deadly intentions, there to assassinate him. Unfortunately, Jurgen succumbs to poison before Rodney can carry out his plan. Martin proceeds to the airport to retrieve his missing briefcase, which holds his passport and various documents. Gina expresses concern that it's not safe for them to remain there, but Martin insists on waiting. As Gina gets up to depart, he offers her some money as a gesture of gratitude. She's apprehensive that Liz might have divulged their location to others and returns the watch to Martin before taking her leave. Unexpectedly, Rodney arrives and clarifies that he has come to assist Martin. Gina is waiting for a taxi when she sees Martin being kidnapped. In response, she steals a taxi and follows the abductors. They pull Martin out of the van, and Rodney explains the situation. He reveals that Martin believes he's Martin Harris, but in reality, there is no such person. The name Martin Harris was invented as a cover to infiltrate the conference, and Martin's memories are not real, they were fabricated. The bad guy aims a gun at Martin, demanding to know who he really is. Rodney admits he was a trained killer. Just as the bad guy is about to shoot, Gina arrives and crashes into the bad guy with her car. The van topples over, killing both the bad guy and Rodney. After the dust settles, Martin looks through Rodney's suitcase and finds many fake passports for both him and Liz. After closer inspection, they find evidence of Martin being in Berlin 3 months earlier. Frustrated, Martin informs Gina that the prince is at risk of assassination this evening and mentions that Gina should have allowed him to drown. Later that night, the prince arrives at the conference, accompanied by Professor Bressler and his young daughters. Liz greets the prince as he enters the event. Meanwhile, Martin and Gina try to enter the building through the service entrance, but they are noticed by hotel security. The professor gives his laptop to Liz to keep it safe, but Liz secretly plants a device on it to copy the data from the hard drive. She finds the code from Martin's father's book. At the same time, security catches Martin and Gina. In a last-ditch effort, Martin claims he hid a bomb in the room 3 months ago. While the files are being copied, Liz arms the bomb. The professor, getting nervous, goes to get his laptop. Liz gives the laptop back to Martin, and both she and the other Martin leave the party. Security reviews footage from 3 months ago, spotting images of Martin and Liz. Concerned, they decide to evacuate the building. As the other Martin and Liz descend the stairs, Liz chooses to return and deal with the bomb. She doesn't want her face to be linked to a bomb that's no longer needed. Martin notices Bressler's daughters, and it clicks that their names are the same as the plants he used as passwords. He understands that his research could be worth a lot in the wrong hands and figures out that Bressler is the real target, not the prince. Martin escapes from the security office and clashes with the other Martin, who's returned to harm Bressler. Regrettably, Liz doesn't manage to deactivate the bomb in time, and she gets caught in the explosion. Martin's recollection begins to fill in more details about the plan and how he played a part in it. He figures out a way to stop the other Martin by using a sharp piece of broken mirror. Just then, Gina arrives, steps in, takes the weapon away from Martin, and helps him leave the building. As the firefighters put out the fire, Bressler leaves with his daughters. The next day, he announces a breakthrough in corn development to help with world hunger. Martin gives Gina a fake passport so she can go wherever she pleases. He also adopts a new identity for himself, and they hop on a train to begin their new lives together. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification, so you can watch more video like this. Thanks for watching.